Much bowing and cheering follows. My arm is about to fall off from waving when Caesar Flickerman finally bids the audience good night, reminding them to tune in tomorrow for the final interviews, as if they have a choice. Peta and I are whisked to the President's mansion for the victory banquet, where we have very little time to eat as Capitol officials, and particularly generous sponsors, elbow one another out of the way as they try to get their picture with us. Face after beaming face flashes by, becoming increasingly intoxicated as the evening wears on. Occasionally I catch a glimpse of Haymitch, which is reassuring, or President Snow, which is terrifying, but I keep laughing and thanking people and smiling as my picture is taken. The one thing I never do is let go of Peta's hand. The sun is just peeking over the horizon when we straggle back to the 12th floor of the training center. I think now I'll finally get a word alone with Peta, but Haymitch sends him off with Portia to get something fitted for the interview, and personally escorts me to my door. Why can't I talk to him, I ask. Plenty of time for you to talk when we get home, says Haymitch. Go to bed. You're on air at 2. Despite Haymitch's running interference, I'm determined to see Peta privately. After I toss and turn for a few hours, I slip into the hall. My first thought is to check the roof, but it's empty. Even the city streets far below are deserted after the celebration last night. I go back to bed for a while and then decide to go directly to his room, but when I try to turn the knob, I find my own bedroom door has been locked from the outside. I suspect Haymitch initially, but then there's more an insidious fear that the Capitol may be monitoring and confining me. I've been unable to escape since the Hunger Games began, but this feels different, much more personal. This feels like I've been in prison for a crime and I'm awaiting sentencing. I quickly get back in bed and pretend to sleep until Effie Trinket comes to alert me to start of another big day. I have about 5 minutes to eat a bowl of hot grain and stew before the prep team descends. All I have to say is, the crowd loved you, and it's unnecessary to speak for the next couple hours. When Cinna comes in, he shoos them out, and dresses me in a white, gauzy dress and pink shoes. Then he personally adjusts my makeup until I seem to radiate a soft, rosy glow. We make idle chit-chat, but I'm afraid to ask him anything of real importance because after the incident with the door, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched constantly. The interview takes place right down the hall in the sitting room. A space has been cleared, and the love seat has been moved in and surrounded by vases of red and pink roses. There are only a handful of cameras to record the event, no live audience at least. Caesar Flickerman gives me a warm hug when I come in. Congratulations, Katniss. How are you feeling? How are you faring? Fine. Nervous about the interview, I say. Don't be. We're going to have a fabulous time, he says, giving my cheek a reassuring pat. I'm not good talking about myself, I say. Nothing you say will be wrong, he says. And I think, oh, Caesar, if only that were true. But actually, President Snow may be arranging some sort of accident for me as we speak. Then Pete is there looking handsome in red and white, pulling me off to the side. I hardly get to see you. Haymitch seems to be keeping us apart. Haymitch is actually bent on keeping us alive, but there are too many ears listening, so I just say, yes, he's gotten very responsible lately. Well, there's just this and we go home. Then he can't watch us all the time, says Peta. I feel a sort of shiver run through me, and there's no time to analyze why, because they're ready for us. We sit somewhat formally on the love seat, but Caesar says, oh, go ahead and curl up next to him if you want. It looked very sweet. So I tuck my feet up, and Peta pulls me in close to him. Someone counts backward, and just like that, we're being broadcast live to the entire country. Caesar Flickerman is wonderful, teasing, joking, getting choked up when the occasion presents itself. He and Peta already have the rapport they established that night of the first interview, that easy banter, so I just smile a lot and try to speak as little as possible. I mean, I have to talk some, but as soon as I can redirect the conversation back to Peta. Eventually, though, Caesar begins to pose questions that insist on fuller answers. Well, Peta, we know from our days in the cave that it was love at first sight for you from age What, 5? Caesar says. From the moment I laid eyes on her, says Peeta. But Katniss, what a ride for you. I think the real excitement for the audience was watching you fall for him. When did you realize you were in love with him? Asks Caesar. Oh, that's a hard one. I give a faint, breathy laugh and look down at my hands. Help. Well, I know when it hit me. The night when you shouted out his name from that tree, says Caesar. Thank you, Caesar, I think, and then I go with this idea. Yes, I guess it was. I mean, until that point, I just tried not to think about what my feelings might be, honestly. Because it was so confusing and it only made things worse if I actually cared about him. But then, in the tree, everything changed, I say. Why do you think that was? Urges Caesar. Maybe because for the first time there was a chance I could keep him, I say. Behind a cameraman, I see Haymitch give a sort of huff with relief, and I know I've said the right thing. Caesar pulls out a handkerchief as he has to take a moment because he's so moved. I can feel Peeta press his forehead into my temple, and he asks, So now that you've got me, what are you going to do with me? I turn into him, put you somewhere you can't get hurt. And when he kisses me, people in the room actually sigh. For Caesar, this is a natural place to segue into all the ways we did get hurt in the arena, from burns to stings to wounds. But it's not until we get around the mutts that I forget I'm on camera. When Caesar asks Peeta about how his new leg is working out. New leg? I say, and I can't help reaching out and pulling up the bottom of Peeta's pants. Oh no, I whisper, taking the metal and plastic device that has replaced his flesh. No one told you? Asks Caesar gently. I shake my head. I haven't had the chance, says Peeta with a slight shrug. It's my fault, I say, because I used that tourniquet. Yes, it's your fault. I'm alive, says Peeta. He's right, says Caesar. He'd have bled to death for sure without it. I guess that it is true, but I can't help feeling upset about it to the extent that I'm afraid that I might cry, and then I remember everyone in the country is watching me, so I just bury my face in Peeta's shirt. It takes him a couple of minutes to coax me back out, because it's better in this shirt, where no one can see me, and when I do come out, Caesar backs off, questioning me so I can recover. In fact, he pretty much leaves me alone until the berries come up.